How do you define creativity?
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
So thank you for coming.
Of
Appreciate
course.
it.
Thank you for having me.
I always like to start by just asking, like, how would you introduce yourself if we just met on the street?
So my name is Alexander Colón. I go by Alexander the Great Glass. And when people ask me that kind of question, it's a little confusing because, I dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome when I first started. So I wasn't sure, am I an artist, am I a businessman? But now I just kind of like blend the two worlds together, and whatever in between, whatever you want to call me, go for it. But I definitely started doing the glass art out of my parents' backyard, building up a reputation there and just learning about the world. And then that kind of finishing my finance degree at FIU kind of blended those things together. And then here I am now running the glass studio, Glass Bubble Miami.
Sick. Yeah, I like to ask that because it is confusing. So I always like to see, it's more of like to see what you think of yourself, like what you would describe yourself as. Because some people think they have to lead with like what they do or who they are or where they come from. So I always like to get like that perspective of like how you would introduce yourself. But that's cool. I didn't know you went to FIU for finance.
Yeah, I went to FIU to get my bachelor's in finance, and honestly, I didn't want to do it at all. Kind of hated the process or whatever, but I'm very thankful I did it. And it was my mom that told me, like, all right, you can quit your job, you can go full time in glass, but you're not gonna quit school.
Yeah, nah.
So that was like my promise to her, pretty much.
Yeah, it's the same. Like coming up with a Latino family, it's like you kind of have to get that piece of paper, which is like I went to FIU to study international business, and I immediately changed my major after like the first two classes because numbers and math wasn't my thing. But you were always interested in glass blowing, even while you were going to school, or how did you kind of like even like how does one get into glass blowing?
It's funny because I've been smoking weed for a long time. I actually like quit not too long ago. Not quit, we call it a tolerance break. So I'm taking a little break because I've been so busy that I just can't mix those two worlds too much anymore. But I was smoking a lot when I was younger, and I remember the first time I saw a glass rig, which is like a mini bong for concentrates and stuff like that. And it was a dinosaur, and I was like, damn, it's crazy a machine makes this stuff. And then all my friends were like laughing at me. They're like, this is made by hand, bro. And then I saw that first video. I was like, what? This is crazy. Signed up for my first class with a soft glass bead maker, which is not even in the world of what I do now. But she told me that there was a young student she had that had similar interests as me because she knew I wanted to make glass rigs. And she introduced me to who became my mentor, Willie That Glass Guy. And then it just kind of rolled off of that.
Wow, I'm glad you mentioned both those things because those are two things I was interested in, like the weed aspect of it and the mentorship. Like, you think like, because I mean, to be honest, when I first heard of glass blowing, it was because of weed. Like, is there like a stigma with that, or is it like mainly the focus of glass blowing, or is it just happens to go hand in hand? Or
it goes hand in hand. I mean, if you want to make sales when you first start, it's a really easy way to enter. And if you have a style, why not make your style with a couple extra holes in it, and then now it's a bong, and now people could smoke it. So it definitely. You get kind of pushed in that direction sometimes, but luckily I wanted to go in that direction, so it worked out for me,
Yeah, because like I wonder, like, how do you balance that, like, make like you as an artist making your glass blowing and your pieces versus like where you kind of do have to make some sort of a product to make money. So like, how does that kind of go hand in hand, or is it like you're not? I wouldn't say targeted customer, but like. The customers that gravitate towards you are already kind of in line with that.
Yeah, so like I said, since I was smoking, for me, I kind of found that community and I was completely all right with that. But I see a lot of people starting from scratch and they don't know how they're going to make money. And then it always kind of, since that's where I come from, that's where I can kind of push them towards. But even my shop mate, like Sax Glass, when he first started to help him get going, he was making marbles, and you would think it's just a marble, but when you're taking dabs or smoking concentrates, that marble is now a slurper set, and they use it for other things. So it's like you're selling a marble for 25, sometimes 100, sometimes $500. depending on the work that goes into that marble. But now you have a market for it. You're not just trying to find someone to buy your marbles, you know?
Yeah. Nah, there's a whole science to it for sure.
Yeah.
And like, do you get more of, I guess, is there such like, you know, an artist like they get commissioned for paintings? Like, do you have that type of work, or are you
Yeah.
selling like mass product? Or?
No, all the time. It's a good combination though. Like you don't want to get stuck in custom orders because custom orders can get complicated. Really satisfying one person's vision versus you wanting to create your own vision and people just buying it. I feel like that's more of the, you know, the path that glass blowers want to be on. I make this and there's just a world of people that want to buy exactly what I made in my vision. But when you first start, I would kind of make a couple things and then people be like, I like that, but can I get it in green, or can I get it with 2 arms? One, you know, they just customize it any way they want to customize it, and then it changes it a little bit. So that's where the commission work comes in. Like, all right, I got you green, you upcharge on that, and then you make some money off of it. And then there's the production world where you can make 10 of them and move them to a smoke shop at wholesale or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like we talk about it a lot here, but it's like building your brand, right? Like it doesn't really matter what it is you're doing, but if you're able to build your brand and like your style of whatever art that is, people will just gravitate towards it versus, you know, trying to satisfy clients and make money that way. It's like kind of a longer road, but in the end, it's like you get to do what like you enjoy making. So and the people come to you. And then I wanted to ask, because you mentioned you had a mentor. Like how does one find a mentor in the glass world? Because that's interesting.
Lucky. You know, the lady that taught me was nice enough to just put down his name and number. I reached out, and a lot of times in the glass industry in general, they don't answer. You know, some people are very hermit style, like in their shed or in their studio. They don't really care to reach out or help others because I guess they see it as there's what money am I going to make by just giving this guy information. And that was probably the biggest struggle becoming a glass blower that I got into. But luckily, Willie was very receptive. He's from Miami, and it felt like a brother, you know, and that our relationship built to that for sure. But after the first couple classes I took with him, it just, you know, our conversation was real natural. We would hang out sometimes. And yeah, just watching him grow and him helping me grow was a huge piece as to why I do what I do. Because without that, you just get ignored or left on red, you know, and nobody ever gets back to you. And it's hard to find the pieces to the puzzle. Like, what kiln do I buy? What torch do I buy? Am I going to blow up my shed if I do this? You know, like you said, Hispanic parents, that's literally all they were worried about. They're like, you're going to blow up the backyard. And I'm like, don't worry, I got this. I had no idea what I was doing.
Especially something so specific, dude. Like, I can imagine the amount of headaches or money or disasters that guy saved you from. Like,
no, exactly.
And it's like mentorship is something that like I would always hear that word, and I'm like, yeah, like whatever. It's not a big deal, but like it really is, man. Especially in the creative like world, like finding someone that can help you avoid disasters or save you time to like, you know.
100%. I do that all the time now. Like, I think the struggle I went through to find it and how much it helped me when I did find it is why I treat everyone the way I treat them. Like, I'll teach them anything they want to know. I'll bring them in, bring them under my wing, you know. I'll learn from them as well because I feel like you can learn from anyone at any level. But I love to teach other people. I really enjoy helping people not make the same mistakes I did or not waste the money that I might have wasted, you know. And if they're going to do it, they're going to do it, whether you mentor them or not. Sometimes you'll be adding fuel to that fire of like, all right, let me show you then. So I just love helping people and seeing them grow. And it happens all the time now with the studio because we're the only glass blowing studio in Miami. And technically, it's called lamp working. You know what we do? We work with the smaller torches. Glass blowing is like the big stuff that like you see on the Netflix show and stuff like that. We do lamp working because, and I hope I'm right on this, but they used to make oil lamps with it back in the day and stuff like that.
Nah, and when you teach people, you also learn. Like I found that you think you know everything, but then once you're explaining to someone, because you have to like almost explain it to them as like a fifth grader, and then you kind of process it in your head. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. Like it is like this and that. You forget sometimes like the basics, and you gotta like go back when you're teaching someone.
100%. Like you could learn from somebody that just got started, or there's always something they could bring to the table. Maybe their thing is content. You need help with your content. Now you're just trading like skills pretty much. And you got to just push that aside of I know everything. Once you push that aside, growth really comes a lot faster.
I love that. So like, take me back to like your parents' shed, like, because I'm very interested in like how do you even start setting that up? Because like even doing any work in the shed is your parents already looking at you sideways.
No, it was crazy. Even the investment that went into it, I got really lucky that my dad had a shed, and I was like, oh, let me just take up half of the shed. Took up that whole shed. All his stuff ended up in the garage. That garage was a mess. You know, it wasn't a fight because they didn't want me to do it. It was more of a back and forth because they were just trying to make sure I wasn't wasting my time. You know, like a lot of Hispanic parents do. They do it because they care. You know, they love you so much. They don't want to see you waste time and money. But I had Willie guiding me throughout the way, basically sending me lists of what to buy. And at the time, my grandma passed away, and she left me like a nice little chunk of money, like a couple $1,000s. And I honestly thought to myself, if I don't spend this on an investment like this, I'm going to spend it on something stupid like smoking or something like that, you know? So I just started buying the torch. You know, it was like 1,400. The kiln was like 800, and right there you just get your little base started, some glass colors. Willie came over, helped me set it all up, and I finally had my own little studio in the backyard. And little by little, I just was kind of learning through trial and error because there was barely any content on YouTube or anything like that at the time. No one was making videos of how to blow glass or something. So it was tough, but I learned, and I look back at it and it was a lot of fun. You know, my parents still send me pictures of me in the shed at night, like working late hours and stuff. And I love to see those pictures because that's like where you started.
Nah, I'm sure that's funny. Like you said, you probably would have blown it maybe on weed or whatever, but like your parents probably thought that because the glass blowing and they're seeing pipes.
Oh, yeah.
Like
this guy's going too far into this world, you know?
Like he loves weed so much, he has to make the pipe.
I got lucky that, and I remember it one day, Willie came over to like help me set things up and like use the studio to see how it all functioned and how things made sense. And we were just like eating inside my kitchen, and my mom was grilling him. You know how Hispanic parents are like, oh, what do you do? And how much do you make? And what, you know? And he was really good with the answers. And at the time he had a kid and stuff. So I think it opened her eyes to like, okay, there's a world beyond just making pipes and using them. Like, and she trusted me. She knows I'm a hardworking kid, and I always had like that entrepreneur mentality of let me build something out of this. So it was a combination, but him talking to her was huge. And I do that all the time today when someone's parents aren't down, like bring them over. Let me break it down for them. And I love doing that now because I know how much it saved me at the time.
Nah, that's super important. Like you're the Hispanic mom doing like the buena gente check. Like no,
Exactly.
But imagine like you're like building, you're not playing with glass, you're working with glass, you're building these things. There's an old guy coming in like
yeah, and that's another thing. They're like, oh, you better not have people randomly coming over and this and that. It's like, I mean,
but they know once they see, it's like once they see like, okay, this kid's like, he's up late, he's like really into this, like it's serious. Like did you get like maybe your friends looking at you sideways like, yo, come on?
No,
like,
they were all for it because now they just come back to the shed and we're chilling. They're watching me blow glass. We're smoking, talking shit for a bit, and then, you know, a finished piece. And they were always huge supporters of what I did. You know, they would buy some of my first pieces, which are always your worst pieces.
Right.
And when I see them have it now on their shelf, or if they wear it or something like that, it's always that memory of like, those are your day one supporters for real. Like, you know, and as your stuff gets more expensive, they're not supporting you anymore.
Right.
And I love them, but I get it. You know, your stuff gets to a price point where it's like, yeah, I'm good. I don't smoke that much. But yeah, they did it when it mattered most. And when you need that confidence to be like, all right, people like this stuff. Like, let me get it. Let me make more. Let me keep grinding.
Yeah. Those early day ones are like the ones that keep helping you push forward. Like, who would you say was like your biggest, besides your parents, maybe like your biggest supporter back then?
When it comes to like glass collecting, My friends always bought like a couple pieces, but it was always surprising to me how I would have like followers just really gravitate towards my work and be like, can I get one in blue now, in green? Can I get it bigger, smaller, with an opal, without it, you know? And sometimes they send me collections of my work that I'm like, damn, that's crazy. This guy has more work than anyone I know, you know, and anyone in my family. So believe it or not, I know people like, there's haters in the comment, but there's mad supporters in the comments too. And sometimes you just got to focus your energy on those people.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think sometimes like we might be hard on our own work of like whatever it is we're doing. We're like you said, maybe in some imposter syndrome. But then you get like a perspective of someone like, yo, that's sick. Like, how did you do that? Like, wow, like showing me this, that. And I'm like, damn, I guess it can't be that bad. If, like,
exactly.
Even this person is telling me like it's dope. Like,
art is subjective. So like, you know, what one person hates, one person loves. And that's something that Willie always taught me too. He's like, it's worth what they're willing to pay for it sometimes. You're overthinking your value. If that guy paid 10 and he's happy, who are you to say it's worth 5 or less than that? He's happy with it. Just move on, you know, on to the next one.
So when did it first start to turn into like a legitimate business in your head? Like, we're like, okay, like I gotta like start a LLC.
So I was working at Sharon Williams. I hopped around from a lot of jobs, but the last one before I was working at Sharon Williams, which was right down the street from my house. So it was super quick to get home and stuff. And I was at FIU. And little by little, I started selling pieces and I got my first smoke shop order, which was like a little over $100. Nothing crazy, but at the time was insane for me. And I just started to see like, okay, I'm making almost as much as I did at Sharon Williams, which was a part-time job. It's not crazy money. But that was enough proof to me to be like, okay, imagine if I took this full time, because I'm still in school and I'm still doing this job. So that's when like I had that conversation with my parents of like taking a step back from the job and letting, you know, the glass speak for itself while still finishing school. And that's, she told me like, you could do whatever you want. You're just not stopping FIU. I'm like, all right, cool. I would have probably, but yeah, she wouldn't let me. And I'm grateful for that. I still have the diploma on like my bench where I work and stuff.
Yeah. Nah, it's looking back, like my parents were the same, especially my mom. And it's like, now looking back, it's like because they pushed so hard for that, like I probably would have never finished, and I would have never finished as fast as I finished because I was like, I just wanted to get it done with. That I went every summer, I took every semester, like, which looking back, like I would have never done if it was like.
It's funny that you took that route because I was like, I'm gonna take one class each semester. Probably took me like 6 years to finish at FIU. It was crazy.
4 or 5 classes every semester, and then the summer I would do like 2 or 3. But like I never skipped the summer. Like I just wanted to be done. But where most people are like, all right, let me like really. But I looked at it as like, all right, I need the experience of college, but like also I need to do this for my mom. Yeah, you know. But I mean, I'm glad I did it because like I think the experiences you have in college, like.
No, for sure. The people you meet.
Yeah, exactly.
Just interacting with people. And I see it all the time in my industry where a lot of these people didn't go to college. And you don't need to go to college to be successful. But the way I get to communicate with businesses or possible sponsorships, running events, I can tell that whether my work is the best or not, working with me is very easy for some of these people. And that is a skill and something that a lot of people value.
Oh, 100%. Especially in Miami. Like, I feel like that's an underrated skill or value. Like, being reliable and knowing how to communicate is like people... Because everyone, you know, I don't want to use the word flaky, but it is kind of... 100%. You know, how it is in Miami.
Very flaky. Very flaky.
So I'm sure people might assume that of you because you're, like, in glassblowing. It has to do with this and that. So they're, like... unsure, but then they probably meet you and they're like, oh, okay.
That's what I always say. Once you meet me in person, we have that first conversation, you're like, all right, like this is not just a hippie glass blower trying to and shout out to my hippies, bro. They're running the game in glass sometimes, making the best work. But there's that business side of things which I have to give to the education that balances me out really well, and why I was able to make it into more of a business than just depending on my art to sell, to make the rent or whatever the case is.
You know, and it's crazy how you go to school to study business and finance, but then you end up glassblowing. But it still is a major contribution to
big
to
part
what
of
you do.
what I do every day. You know, probably the biggest part, because art is a lot of fun, but it stops being fun when people are late to pay you for that piece, or they're not ordering your pieces, stuff like that. The business side always helped me balance that out and make sure that, okay, I don't have to rely on my pieces to sell, keep my passion for glass growing, and now as I improve, it's just all fun and part of the journey.
And how do you balance that? Like, because I'm assuming it's just like a 1-man or 2-person operation, like doing everything. So how do you like split your time between working on work, the art, time for yourself to like experiment on new shit, and like making sure the books are handled?
It's a lot, and the content,
Of
and
course.
so it's a lot of stuff, but it took a long time to reach that balance. In a weird way, life kind of made me balance. So like when I first opened the glass bubble, the pandemic hit like 2 weeks after I signed the lease. So I was like, okay, no classes, no events, none of the things I had planned originally. But luckily I had enough locals and friends that I built from selling glass out of my shed that I was like, hey guys, look, this is what I'm doing. It's the pandemic. Glass sales were through the roof during the pandemic because everybody had extra money in their pocket. So we just came together, and time and bored, like just like, what am I gonna spend this money on? They're all smoking too, So it worked out. We all moved into the studio together, so I was able to make rent like that through my full-time renters, and then that gave me a chance to absorb all these great artists I was surrounded by. Most of them were more experienced than me, and just get better at my craft one day at a time, because I didn't have a chance to focus on classes or anything like that. And then once the pandemic ended and all the glass sales went down and I had renters moving out, of course I was freaking out, like, okay, how are we gonna make this work? But then I kind of clicked, like, let's go back to why I opened this place to begin with, and let's do the classes and the events, and let's build that community that I always wanted to build and I couldn't before. So then I had to take a little step back from improving every day and now focusing on the business side of things. So I kind of just let, go with the flow, whatever you want to call it. But even though I didn't want to, or it was happening at times I didn't want it to happen, it worked out looking back now. And I'm glad I didn't fight it or give up even.
Yeah. No, you're able to like see it as an opportunity. And,
exactly.
Like, be able to pivot whenever it needed to happen. How do the classes work? It's kind of like you have people you're teaching to glass blowing, but then kind of a date night, maybe business meeting type of deal going.
Yeah, so there was no one doing that in Miami. Like, my mentor did open a glass studio called Glass House Miami first. So it was like a very good picture for me to see of what I wanted and what I didn't want. And he did it with his friend. It didn't work out. And when that closed down, he ended up moving into the shed with me. And little by little, I started the glass bubble with another partner that helped me out financially, basically, because I couldn't get into the warehouse and all that stuff. And we bought out another local Florida glass business that was shutting down. So we got all the materials from them. We got the warehouse going. And I had my partner at the time. And then all that kind of started to shift with the pandemic. Then we had to focus on the arts. So things got really complicated, but I had a good team around me always to like push me, keep me going. My girlfriend is like one of the biggest pieces of that. Like, look at me in the face, like, you got this. It's like when people see something in you that you know is there, but you might not understand how you're gonna get there, it definitely makes you either stand up to the situation or fold, and like all my loved ones were just looking at me like, you got this, bro. Like, why are you doubting yourself, And I'm like, all right, if they see it in me, like, who am I to say I can't do this? I know I could do this.
Nah, I love that, bro. And it's always like, I don't know if you've seen that picture of like the carrot and the rabbit trying to get it, but it's like, it's always right there, right when you're about to give up. But if you just keep going, it's like you get the whole carrot.
I keep that in my head all the time.
Yeah.
And it holds true, honestly. Like the times where I've wanted to give up, you're banging your head against the wall, breaking pieces, whatever the case is, no orders. I always just maybe take a day off, play some basketball, something that really gets your head off of things, and then just get right back to work. And it always works itself out if you're willing to put in the work on the other end.
Yeah. What would you say is like, I guess, of all the things you do, because you mentioned a lot, like what's your favorite part of either glass blowing in general or the process of like running the business? Or
So it's tough because like you said, I do a lot of things and I love everything that I do, from the classes to the events to leading other people, but it is the most rewarding is watching other people grow through the information I can give them, or the inspiration, I guess, yeah, that I give them. Because I have some younger people also in the shop. Even though I grew up in the shop with everyone older than me and motivating me, now I have younger people in the shop, and I really like to give them as much guidance as I can to show them, like, you can make a career out of this. It's your choice at the end of the day, but anything you need, I'll be there for you. And to see them grow, like one of my shop mates, Sax Glass, started with zero glass experience. Right when I opened the doors, he moved in. He was one of the first people to move in. And 3 years later, he's easily one of the best glass sculptors I've ever seen. And it's just all because of the hustle. And I hope that I inspired him as much as he's inspired me, you know, and we bounce ideas off of each other. We push each other all the time. So it helps a lot to have people like that around you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I see it here every day. Like that support system, like having, it's like, you know, like you said, infectious. Like it makes you motivated, inspired, or like even helping someone. Maybe it's not like your day that you're like having to create something, but like you're able to like channel that to somebody else and help them. And like, it kind of like, I don't want to say karma, but it just like goes back to you.
I feel like a lot of people fold under that pressure. Like, how am I supposed to keep up with all these creatives? Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, I know what I bring to the table. By now, especially, I still suffer from imposter syndrome till this day. But I know what I bring to the table, and it's just that little voice in your head. You have to know when to shut it off, because sometimes it's good to balance that out. Be logical about your decisions. Don't just be too passionate. But you have to shut that voice off sometimes to just push through and get through certain moments that you didn't think you could make it through.
No, for sure. What would you say is like your favorite piece that you've done?
My favorite piece. I love the full body mushroom rigs that I make. They're the most challenging. They're the heaviest, you know, pieces to make. But the mushy in general is something that has definitely become like my image in a way. It's like my brand, you know. I was making little mushroom characters, and then one day my mentor Willie was working right next to me, and he's like, oh, I got this idea of making a monkey on a swing. And then he's like, don't take my idea. And then when he finishes, he's like, all right, you could take my idea, but you have to let me finish this one first and post it first. I'm like, all right, go for it. After he did that, I made the mushy on a swing, and the way people were just attracted to it, the happiness it brings to people, I just loved it. You know, I love making people happy with my artwork. And like, that's why if you see my work, it's a bunch of happy little characters. It's got a very kawaii vibe to it, where they got the cute faces, their tongue sticking out. And the mushy took off, and ever since then, I just make little mushy Sherlock pipes, mushy rigs, stuff like that. So I almost see him as like a toy, like a little buddy.
Yeah, and at this point, like, it goes back to what we're saying. Like, maybe like your art is geared towards a certain community, but then after a while, it's like people are just collecting your pieces. Yeah, because they fuck with it. Like
jewelry, shot glasses. People ask me for things I would have never thought to make, but you have the skill to make.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's true. Let me just make one of these, you know? So the mushy took off, and I was getting orders from all different types of people with different styles. And it was a challenge, like, oh, a little mushy cafecito cup, make a shot glass, make this. But I enjoy it. Those are the kind of commissions that you're like, all right, I'm up for that challenge, and this is going to be fun to do. And once you look at it and it looks as good as you envisioned it before you started, you're like, oh, shit, this is crazy.
Is there anything that like maybe was requested or like commissioned that you had to say no? Or you were like,
I say no all the time. All the time. Because like when I started making certain pop culture characters, that's why I kind of stay away from that now, because when you make one cartoon character from a specific cartoon,
and everybody wants,
then they're like, wait, but you made Hello Kitty, let me get Spider-Man. Dog, Hello Kitty and Spider-Man have nothing to do with each other. There's a big difference in making those two. But Sax Glass does that, and he's the best at that. That guy, that's why he inspires me, even though he's got a lot less years under his belt than I do. But he'll get an order for a Spider-Man or anything, and he's just like, yeah, I could do it. And he does it, and it looks amazing too. But that's something I never wanted to get tangled up in, because it gets too complicated and it takes me away from what I want to make.
Yeah. And that's important to have like those, I guess, boundaries. Because then you might get an offer that the money looks real nice, but
I always try to guide them in a different, like, oh, you want Spider-Man? Let's do Spider-Man with a little cute face on him. And it's,
Yeah.
so this is how I work. I could do something of what you want mixed with how I work. That I'm always happy to do for sure. And that's where the mushy turned into me making little popsicle buddies or like strawberry buddies and all these different little fruit, produce, candy things with the same face and the same vibe to it, just not the mushroom anymore.
Yeah, and like, how do you? What do you think is like attracts? I guess I don't want to say business, but like more that you see maybe people start to discover you more. Is you think it's like because glass blowing is very specific, so you think it's like the word of mouth of people being like, "Yo, where'd you get that?" Or the online Instagram
helps.
or
Instagram is huge, and there's a lot of great artists out there that you'll never hear of because they just aren't posting content. And it's not just, that Etsy style content where you're just posting a finished product every day. You have to put a face behind it because I realized early on that when people know a little bit more about you before they buy your work, they're investing in more than just your work. And they're happy to do that because they're like, oh, we have the same dog and he loves his dog like I do, little things like that. When I first started, Instagram was just popping off and I didn't have a lot of work to show. So I would show my face most of the time and really just let people into the journey more than the pieces because I was kind of ashamed to post some of those pieces. And I would get hated on all the time, like, oh, you're a superstar, like joking about how I'm always showing my face. And I'm like, yeah, this is how I do content. And now everyone's doing it like that and putting their face behind the work.
Nah, I think it's super important. I'm glad you touched on it like that. Like, because I was the same. Like, in the beginning, I just didn't know what to post besides DJing. And like, that's all I had to like show because I didn't want to show anything else. But then you realize the more you show, like, your brand isn't what you do. It's like who you are.
Exactly.
So the more you show, like, oh, this guy's into this. Oh, he does that too.
Yeah.
And then like you kind of make a Venn diagram of people that fuck with you. And then, like you said, they support you more because of who you are, and then your art is dope. So it's like, of course, I'm gonna like do business with you or fuck with you or support you.
Yeah, it's building a community of people that agree with you beyond things. I used to, when I was playing basketball all the time, I'll post myself playing basketball, and the amount of DMs you get of people like, yo, that's crazy. That's like, that connection goes beyond you like my piece. And I think we're seeing more of it now, where as social media has been on for a long time, you're supporting someone that then you find out something you don't like, or they get in trouble, or whatever the case is. And you're like, okay, now I don't want to support this guy. I hate that I have a shelf full of his work, So for me, it was always about, let me just show people who I am. If you like the work, great. And I put customer service above everything too, because a lot of people are not good at that, especially in my industry, of answering and being very polite with people that might be a little, texting you every day about where their piece is. Some people get really upset about that. And I'm like, listen, this is part of my job. You want updates? I got you with the updates. It's just what I signed up for. I don't know about anyone else, but I know that's what I signed up for.
Yeah, how do you deal with that? Like, maybe someone either upset about the delay of an order, or like they didn't even like it for whatever reason, or they thought it was gonna be something else and it's not that, or like to them or even reverse. Like, I've had people say something's dope and I'm like, bro, no, this isn't it.
But that goes back to like, listen, if they think it's dope and they're looking at it, they think it's dope. I respect that, and I can't be the one to take myself down either. But I've dealt with, USPS delays. Just recently, I was shipping to someone in Canada and it took forever to get there. I sent the wrong one, had to send another one for free. I'm answering right away, communicating right away. Now, if they get mad about that, there's nothing I can do. I'm doing everything I can and being as polite about it as I can. But luckily, they're always very receptive. I'll throw in some extra stickers. Maybe I'll throw in an extra piece. Maybe I'll even return the money if I have to. That's just something a lot of artists aren't willing to do because they don't have anything else to fall back on. They rely on that money, or that money's gone as soon as it's sent.
Yeah.
That's something I never wanted. I'll take half up front, half when I'm finished, kind of thing. I have the business to fall back on. So if I have to send someone back their money because I messed up, that's going to happen. It's just, I don't want anyone to look at my business and say I do business poorly.
Yeah, no, 100%. And even like in instances where maybe like this person's just literally a dick and they're being difficult, like to be able to even have the leverage to be like, look, man, it's not working out. Here's your money. So you can walk away, because it's also taking time and bandwidth from you to do like work you
100%.
want. But if you're like needing that money, then you're like gonna keep working with this person, and it's just gonna be like,
That was me in the beginning with some shops, and I definitely made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Like, you sell something to a shop and then you have it on sale on your own page, and they're like, how am I supposed to flip the 10 you just gave me, you know? But luckily I had my mentor, and he's a lot like my mom, where they're not bullshitting me. They're like, yo, I talked to the shop guy and he's telling me this. I don't fight that. I'm like, damn, all right, I gotta cut that shit out. You know, you have to grow and receive the information you're being given. I know a lot of people that would take that the wrong way and be like, oh, well, I don't care, I gotta make money.
yeah.
That's just, you know, I made my mistakes in the beginning, but I always made sure to patch it up now. And even now with what I do, I communicate with all those people and we're all on good pages and stuff like that. But it's really easy to just downward spiral, take that personally, get mad, just run away with the money. I've seen it happen all the time.
Nah, I think, and something I've been getting better at the last couple of years is like just being super transparent and like, yo, you want an update? Here's the update. Exactly. It's not going well, but I'm gonna
exactly. Like, I broke the first 2, but I got you, bro. Like,
because I used to be the type that'd be like, you know, I'm doing a graphic design for someone, and like, it's just for whatever reason something's not working or it's taking time, whatever. I would just try to like hide it, and then like, no, I'm not gonna talk to them until I got it.
That's the worst.
Well, that's the worst thing you could do. And then they're like, they're thinking you just ghosted them, and it's like, no, I'm like literally working all day on this. It's just that like it's taking time. So yeah, I've been trying to get better at that. Where it's just like, look, bro, my bad, but you know, and I've noticed that the people that are successful, that's what they do. Is like, it's not a bad thing. It's just literally being honest.
You know, things happen, especially with glass. Things break, but if you communicate that with them, they're usually very open to, all right, no problem. Like, please keep me updated. Let me know how it's going. But when you shut them out and you kind of hide from them, not because you're trying to hide from them, just because you're scared of their reaction more than anything, it causes bigger issues. And I think about it from a customer's perspective, where I'm like, damn, bro, this guy's not messaging me. I'm seeing him post other pieces for sale or selling other things. Like, what's happening to my stuff, you know? So just be open and honest. And there's real excuses and then there's fake excuses, like, oh, I couldn't make it to the post office today because I got too busy. Like, okay, but busy doing what?
Yeah,
because I'm looking at your Instagram, you don't look too busy, you know? So that's where things get funny. Like, I see a lot of people just stop posting on their story if they have pending things. You have to be careful with that line you're walking, you know, because I'm very transparent, and once I stop posting, I'm sure people will be like, what is happening? Like, I'm waiting for these orders, and this guy stopped posting after he's posting 5 times a day on his stories, you know? So I try to keep up with everyone and make sure no one feels like that. Send them videos, pictures, whatever I have to do.
Yeah, that's good too. Like, because since it's art, you can give them like live updates of like, yo, I'm actually here on the shop. Like, don't worry. Have you ever had like any crazy accidents or like, because I mean, with.
No, I've been, you know, very, very lucky with that one. I've gotten cuts way more than I've gotten burns. I've never had like a bad burn. I've never seen anyone get burned badly in front of me. Cuts are probably the worst thing I've ever seen. But even then, nothing that I've seen required stitches or anything like that. Just basic little cuts that are bleeding everywhere, because those glass cuts go mad deep, even if they're small little pieces of glass.
Because, like, I mean, I really have no experience in, like, what goes into it. So, like, when you're starting with a piece, you're kind of starting with a bigger piece of glass and then not chiseling, but, like, getting down to what it is you're...
Well, actually, it's the opposite. You usually start with a smaller piece and then you'll start to blow it, maybe add some arms and legs to it, stuff like that. So you're thinking more of a, like, woodworking kind of thing, where you start with a big piece of wood.
That's where the fire comes in.
You heat it up, you start blowing your bubbles, you could pull it down to the shapes you want, you could add the mushroom head, I'll start adding some arms, stuff like that. So it actually always starts smaller. Even with solid glass, you start with like a little marble and then you start adding the arms to it or whatever the case is. So it's more of a build up kind of thing. So that's why like picture updates sometimes can be confusing.
That's true.
But it's more about showing them you're working, you know, like, hey, look, sorry, this broke. Here's the broken pieces or whatever. I promise I'll get it back in a couple days. And pushing back that deadline never looks good. Like, I push back deadlines all the time But if I push it back, I try not to push it back again.
Yeah.
I always over promise. Sorry.
Under
Under
promise,
promise,
deliver.
over deliver. Yeah. If you live by that, you're going to be super good. Like if I know this is going to take me 2 weeks, I'm telling them 3 weeks, you know, and that way I already have that extra time just in case anything happens.
Yeah, because you never know life or anything can
Yeah.
happen.
Life in general, you know, things come up. And that's why I did this to begin with. I wanted the freedom that if my
Yeah.
family needs me, if my friends need me, I could just turn everything down and just go do what I have to do and get back to work at night or the next morning, whatever it is. So yeah, you always have to push back those deadlines from the original timeline you
Right.
give them, and just in case, you know.
Yeah, I think that's super key because when I was younger, I would tell people like if I was turning something around, I wanted them to like be like excited. Yo, I'm gonna get it in a day or two. But then you start holding yourself to that, and then if you
Yeah.
get more clients, more orders, more things you have to do, then everyone's expecting it
A
super
day or
quick.
two. Yeah,
And
no.
just because it's dope and it's done in quickly, it's like then they're expecting that. So yeah, like you gotta give your time that time to like for life to happen because you never know.
Yeah, anything could happen. Even with equipment, sometimes we work with ovens. We basically can't work without them. If your electricity's out, if the oven just breaks down, it's made of a couple different parts. But if one of those parts isn't working and you have to buy one, replace it, all those kind of things, you're really just stuck. So those are things that as soon as that happens, communicate it with them and still try to stay within that time frame because you gave yourself some extra time. But things happen, you know, and customers are very receptive to it. I've seen customers wait like 2 years for a glass piece, and I think it's kind of crazy, but you know, it's cool to see that they're willing to do that sometimes if they trust the artist that they're working with.
That's sick. But so like on average, how long would you say you spend in the shop like working on glass? Like not just one project, but like
Every day, like for sure, my glass work goes from like 9 to 3 or 4 at least, because especially like 3 sometimes because things come up in the shop. You know, I have to go get the propane tanks. I have to call the oxygen guy. Maybe a tool broke down. I got to fix that. Maybe somebody's calling me about classes. So I try to get in there early when most people aren't bugging you. I'll work till at least 3 blowing glass, fulfilling orders. And then my favorite days are the days where I have nothing else. I have no classes and I could just be there 7, 8, you know, as late as I want. There's been times where I'll just pop in at 6 or 7 and then go until 4 in the morning, and then, you know, the freedom.
Yeah.
It's what you want, but sometimes it's hard to realize like, okay, this is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
You know, I got back from Puerto Rico the other day and I had a big order I had to fulfill for a shop that we work really well together, and he's like, oh, what's the chances you can get it in 3 days? 3 days means I have to finish it in basically 1.5. So I was pulling up at night, doing 2 shifts in the morning and night, got it sent to him priority, and it all made it on time. Priority next day, actually. And it all made it on time. And that's something I'm willing to do for certain people that like always cover you or got your back or support your work. But yeah, I know a lot of people wouldn't be willing to do those kind of things for orders.
do you have like a because you kind of have that freedom, but it's like you have a freedom, but then it's also like it's almost 24/7, but it's you're free.
It's
But
24/7. It's even when I get home, like sometimes my shop mates are like, "You're leaving so early." I'm like, "Bro, I'm going home, making content, dealing with shipments, dealing with all these different things, emails." I get the most random things pop up that they would never understand. I get it because when you're just making glass, it's like you're just dealing with the DMs and your content.
Yeah.
But when you're running the studio, you're dealing with 100 different things. You know, the fire inspection is coming up, all these different levels of stresses that, you know, although I know I'm going to pass this inspection, it just worries you. What if this guy's a dick? What if, you know, it's like those kind of things that a lot of glass blowers probably don't deal with and don't understand, but that's fine. Like I don't let it get to me anymore, you know. It's my journey, and the people who support me and know what I'm on just trust me at this point because I've proven time and time again what I'm willing to put in for them and for the business.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, it's like the stress can accumulate, but yeah, as long as like you already know that, you know, it comes with the job, it comes with the territory.
Yeah, 100%.
Some days are gonna be harder than others, but
yeah, doing events for the first time, doing classes for the first time. We rolled that out probably like a little over a year ago, and I remember my lease was up and I had to re-sign the lease, and things were horrible. I had almost everyone was moving out. Like 3 out of my 5 renters were moving out. Things were looking tough, but my girlfriend just like told me, all right, stop crying about it, stop the bullshit, let's do what you talked about, let's get the classes going. And all in 1 month we did our first classes, we did our first event. And when I looked back after that month, I remember telling myself 3 months, like if after this 3 months it doesn't look good, like I'm out of here. And we look back and we're like, this is what we thought. And now it's just about leveling it up to more classes and more events and stuff like that.
It's like who you have as a partner is like the most important decision you'll ever make.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her.
Because she could have easily told you, like, man, I don't know, it's a lot of stress, this is tough.
Easy.
Like maybe we can try next year or whatever.
Especially the financial aspect of things. There was times where I had to look at her and be like, I can't cover half the rent at our apartment, and she was just like, all good. Like she understands what I'm building, and without that, easily would have given up, because I'm such a business side logical person sometimes that I'm like, well, I got to provide. I want a family, I want a house. But to have someone like that that's so mature supporting me and what I'm doing, I'm like, all right, I'm not eating shit, and she knows I'm not eating shit. So
and it pushes you to like, all right, I can't fuck this up because someone's putting their faith in me like that.
Those late nights that I'm working, like I'm always thinking about the faith that she has in me, or even my shop mates have in me. And she'll be the first one to be like, no, don't worry, like go to sleep, do it tomorrow. Nah, I'm good. This is for you, dog. Just go back to bed. We're good. I'll see you in the morning.
I love that, man. Do you have like any sort of routine maybe that you follow, or something that you do, since you kind of are at the shop a lot, or like sometimes you're probably in there sweating your ass off working in your zone?
Summer's crazy. The summer's like 100+ degrees in that shop. You got 1,000-degree kilns, you got the 2,000-degree torch,
sauna. It's
crazy hot. That's why people notice that like I'll go from making rigs sometimes to making small pendants, because I'm not trying to have this giant flame in my face all day and stuff like that, So routine's super important. Some people think freedom means to just get up whenever you want and come into work whenever you want. But when you have, I want to get home to my girlfriend and hang out with her and do stuff after. So I wake up super early, go to the gym, have a good breakfast, head to the studio, be there around 9, 10 the latest, depending if someone's waiting for me or coming in early or not. And then I'll just, like I said, work till about 3, 4 on glass, try to tune everyone out as much as possible, ignore all those texts that are coming in. And then I'll jump in on the messages and start getting back to everyone that's waiting for me to get back to them and stuff like that. And even making time for stuff like this, this is important to get your story out there. And like I told you, I've done this maybe one time before, but the benefits that come from it are awesome, because I'm not the type of guy going around telling people my story. Like I don't think I'm that important, Right. So my team knows what I've been through, but I think it is important that other people understand. So if like there's one person doubting themselves, one person thinking they can't do it, and they hear my story and it pushes them to do it, it's all worth it.
That's exactly like why I started the podcast. Like not only, because your story inspires me, so that's already one person. Yeah. But then if anyone listens to it, which I'm sure people are gonna listen to it, but if it just helps one person like that's going through whatever, because it could be as specific as glassblowing to DJing to professional wrestler, like 100%. Like we were saying earlier, it's all like we're in the same world.
Yeah, I was listening to some of your episodes, and every single one, I feel like if you're an artist, you can pick pieces out of every single one of their journey. Like the comedian that came on was hilarious, was such a good episode. And some people might think, I pesado this. No, bro, like listen to what he's saying. There's a lot of value to what he was saying about just tuning people out and not giving a shit, understanding what you're doing. Or even like the West of Chester, where she was talking about her journey through working a full-time job and catering to her art. There's a lot of people that go through that and kind of like don't understand how to blend those two worlds, but she blends them so perfectly and makes it look flawless. But when she talks about that struggle, you're like, oh, all right, we all struggle. Yeah. Like it's just about pushing through that or having the right partner to push you through that.
I appreciate that, bro. So I'll leave you with this last question. What does creativity mean to you?
Creativity. That's a tough one, because a lot of times I used to feel like the best work is the best artist. But now I'm at the point where it's, you know, about being a leader too to others. And sometimes you meet your idols and then you find out real quick that that's not who you thought they were. So I just want to make sure that my art, my leadership, and all those things come together to inspire other people. And through my creativity, I hope I can do that. And even if it's being creative to plan an event or, you know, do classes different than the way other people are doing it, you know, I use other people as inspiration, bring it together, mix it with everything that I've done or all the people that have inspired me and make something different out of it, you know? So to be creative is it's like a tricky thing for me to define because I feel like I'm very creative in the way I do business. I'm very creative with my artwork and how I separate myself from other people. So just focus on yourself and being you, which I know that sounds super easy, but so many people are trying to be someone they're not on the internet and they don't realize how unique they are and unique the way from where how they were raised or their friends around them, how they're motivated. Put that out on the internet and you're gonna, like we said, you're gonna create that community that messes with you and what you do, and that's the most important part.
We're all one of one, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And we're trying to be like that one influencer, that one main, and it's like they got there because they were true to themselves. You can't be them, but you can be a version of that if that's what you want. Just figure out where the real you comes out and show that to people and let those people come to you. Don't try to make a fan base, just let the fan base kind of create itself.
I love that, bro. Well, yo, thank you for coming through. I'm really glad we did this. Appreciate you. Plug your Instagrams before we sign off.
So Alexander the Great Glass on Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You can always find me on Alexander the Great Glass. Glass Bubble Miami is the studio that I run. So if anyone wants to take classes, come through. You know, I always get great reviews as being a very patient teacher. So that's very valuable to me, knowing that, you know, glass could be overwhelming. You're playing with fire for the first time. So I definitely take things slow to make anyone feel comfortable doing it. So if you've never blown glass before, now's your chance in Miami because there's only one place to do it.
I think we're all gonna go as a team building exercise.
Let's do it. That's what I'm saying.
We'll set it up for sure.
You guys would love it. I'm telling you.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Of course, appreciate you having me, man.